Fresh off the heels of a disappointing and underwhelming Fastlane pay-per-view, Raw was in Chicago, Illinois tonight, and let's go over it now here on Wrestling Today. First segment, we had Chris Jericho coming out for a promo. It was a super babyface promo, and he said that Kevin Owens had it coming, what happened to him at Fastlane. And man, I was not a fan of that Fastlane ending. Man, had I done that Fastlane review, I would have torn it to pieces. I have not seen what Jacob, my former partner now, has done with that review, but I'm sure he also gave it a scathing review. But anyway, Owens came out after that, and Owens ended up saying that Jericho was never his best friend, and that Sami Zayn was his best friend, but he stabbed him in the back as well. So he just needed Jericho to be the perfect tool, and then Jericho overstayed his welcome, and he outlived his usefulness. And Owens said that he let Y2J off the hook by not attacking him right after the Goldberg incident. So Jericho, as an ultimatum, really proposed a Mania title match with Owens. Owens accepted it, and he said he wanted it to be for the United States Championship. Uh, Jericho accepted, and he said, well, what are you waiting for? Let's just do it now. Let's get it on right now. So Owens bum rushes the ring. He gets in there, and they start brawling. So then Samoa Joe comes out. Samoa Joe also attacks Chris Jericho, but then Sami Zayn comes out for the save. Both faces run wild, and the faces clean house. And this segment, for the disappointment that Fastlane was, I thought this segment was very good at establishing the faces and the heels and their motives, and I really did like this beginning of Raw. And had you told me that maybe 24 hours ago that I would like the beginning of Raw after that god-awful pay-per-view, one of the worst pay-per-views of at least the last couple years, I would have told you you're crazy. But hey, they stood tall. We went to commercial. We came back. Owens versus Zayn, and it's my first complaint of the evening. I really wish this Raw at times were worse than what it was, because I really feel like I want to go off after that Fastlane pay-per-view. But this is my first complaint. Owens versus Zayn, you cannot have these guys continuously have match after match after match. It ruins the mystique. I understand the whole fight forever type thing and how this rivalry will never end, but you're just wasting their matchups on random episodes of Raw. And I remember before the brand split happened, they had their final fight, or what was advertised as their last match against each other. And I was thinking, well, they'll get split up during the brand split. It'll be good, when they finally are on the same brand again, they'll be able to have fresh matches. But this, I don't like. There's so many other guys on Raw that you don't use on a regular basis, and you card out Owens and Zayn. It was a short match. Owens and Zayn went back and forth for a little bit. Zayn hit a tope con hilo, and that was pretty much the majority of his offense. Owens ended up hitting two pop-up powerbombs. He also, earlier in the match, channeled his inner PWG and hit his front flip leg drop. That looked very nice on the back of the neck. Looked painful. But in my opinion, this match was pointless. It could have gone a lot longer. If you're going to have these two be in a highly anticipated match, there's already massive heat there. You don't even have to have a program there for them to have a great match. So why not have them just have a wonderful, long 10-15 minute match? One of my biggest complaints about Raw is that you don't have enough wrestling on the show. Sure, you have enough promos and you have enough other segments that could be classified as pointless, but the wrestling, I just feel like you could have had more of it, and that's just a waste to have these guys go out there and fight for like 10 minutes and just have it end so abruptly. And Sami Zayn has just been left outside in the cold because they are finally building up Kevin Owens as the fighter, the prize fighter he should have been this entire time, and it comes to Sami Zayn's expense, and I don't like that whatsoever. Sami Zayn should have already won a mid-card title by now, and had it been up to me, I would have had Zayn versus Owens for the Universal title, but that was even before Owens' whole alliance with Jericho. But now I see where they're going. It seems like Zayn is kind of the odd man out. So we'll see what happens with him. I did not like the match because I feel like it's just pointless. Moving on, we had Austin Aries talking about his package. His package. Oh, it was tasty. You like the quality of my mic? Package. 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 Yeah, his big, long package. They had to trim off like 4 minutes. But anyway, it was a package for his return to the ring, and at some point he will have that return. But speaking of his return, let's move right into the Cruiserweight Championship match. Neville, the champion, going up against Rich Swann, and I really enjoyed this match, and I really enjoyed why they put this match on. Rich Swann never had his one-on-one title rematch from when he lost the title in the first place, so I like that they had a bit of continuity. And they had a really good match from the start. It was fast-paced, it was high energy, and this is what they should have been doing with the Cruiserweights from the very get-go. Now, I understand it's a title match, and automatically you have to have it be longer than any other Cruiserweight match, but they should be having, if you're going to have a couple Cruiserweight segments, and you don't want to give away everything because you want some of it to be on 205 Live, then okay, go ahead. Have one Cruiserweight match be like 15 minutes, and then have like maybe a promo, and then a short squash, and we saw squash later on in the night, but this is how it should have been done. These guys probably took up about 3 segments. They had a very good match. It was fast-paced. Starting from the get-go, Neville, he showed a lot of fire as champion, and before he was champion, man, you could just tell they were misusing him, and it was a crying shame. He can go in the ring with just about anyone, and there was a moment in this match, probably from the beginning, that made me cringe. It was right before they went to commercial. They were fighting on the outside, and Neville tossed Rich Swann into the video board. I don't know if I can illustrate this properly with just words, but the video board that is on the outside of the ring, he tosses Rich Swann head first, and Rich Swann, man, his head, oh god, what a sick thud. You look at those hits, and you're just like, how is this person not going to have a concussion? But very scary stuff there. Went to commercial. I believe my notes said, quote, Neville just tossed Swann headfirst in the video board on the ring, exclamation point. So then we get back from commercial. They're fighting on the apron. Swann tosses Neville over. He hits an amazing swanton over the top rope. Later on in the match, he'll end up hitting a fisherman buster for a near fall. Now, Michael Cole, the dumbass Michael Cole, ended up saying that the fisherman buster was a Michinoku driver. Now, I remember months and months ago, during a Sami Zayn match, he said that a Blue Thunder Bomb was a Michinoku driver. And this had become sort of a meme on the internet wrestling forums and everything else. And say what you will about Michael Cole, I think he's improved a lot, but this is just inexcusable. How many times have people had Michinoku drivers, Blue Thunder Bombs, and some sort of fisherman buster, and he's just not been able to recognize those moves? Now, I've done play-by-play commentary for sports in the past myself, and yeah, it's tough when you forget the name of something, or you forget about something in general, and you really have to kind of BS it. But Michael Cole has been doing this for years and years and years and years and years. You would think that he'd have it down by now. But for some reason, Michael Cole he doesn't. That's my rant on that. I don't want to take away from a great match. But he hits the Fisherman Buster for a near fall. He then hit a superplex from the top rope. After that, Swann rolled out of the ring. That was very smart. He knew that danger was coming, so he rolled out of the ring. They fought on the outside, went to commercial, and Swann had some more near falls. He hit a Phoenix Splash, missed that. Neville immediately goes for the cover, and that's really smart ring psychology there. When someone misses a big move, you don't really see the other guy try to go for the pin, and I thought it was really smart for Neville to do that. So he goes for the pin, It's a 2 count, and immediately after Swan kicks out of that, he immediately transitions into the Rings of Saturn, and Swan is agonizing. He's in massive amounts of pain. He taps out. Neville gets the win in a very good, very long cruiserweight segment, almost as long as that package. But anyway, speaking of Austin Aries, he interviewed Neville after the match, and Neville said he's done exactly what he said he'd do. And the crowd was super into Aries because they could tell that Austin Aries was going to come back to the ring at some point, and it had been rumored for a while that Aries was going to have a match with Neville at WrestleMania. I don't know if it'll be a one-on-one match. I really think it should, because I feel like you've run out of number one contenders to have that match with, and if you're gonna have a title match at Mania, Austin Aries needs to be in that match. And I really enjoy that since he's come from TNA to WWE, he's been getting his due. Even at commentary, people have loved Austin Aries. But anyway, the crowd's super hot. They chant for Austin Aries, and Neville says that he's laid waste to pretender after pretender. He said there's no one on his level. Austin Aries says, you really think there's no one else on your level? So Aries, in a way, challenges Neville. And Neville ended up saying that he would re-break Austin Aries' orbital socket. That was nice, because then Aries pulled off his shades, and Aries said, I have one more question to ask. Actually, it's not a question, it's more of an action. Austin Aries punches Neville in the face. The crowd pops huge. He ends up kicking Neville out of the ring, stands tall, and there we go. Austin Aries is no longer a part of the commentary team on Monday Night Raw, and maybe not on 205 Live. I don't really watch 205 Live regularly, but it's a big loss for Mauro Ranallo and Corey Graves at 205 Live, if that is the case. But I think Cole and Graves, and I think Ranallo and Graves will do a great job calling those matches. So it's a huge loss, but it eventually had to happen. And I was really worried in NXT when Aries was there. I was like, man, he's going to be lost in the shuffle. And then now he's got a nice niche. He's got that nice cruiserweight division to fall back on. So, hey, he is full of charisma. He's full of great ring skills, and we'll see what happens there. That should be a wonderful program. That was my high of the night. From this high to the next segment, Enzo and Cass backstage, they're talking about how they got screwed, and I believe Cass called it the Milwaukee shoe job, saying how he got his boot on the rope and it was pulled off the rope at the last moment. The ref did not see, and the club retained. I thought that was pretty funny, but Sheamus and Cesaro interrupt. They call them chokers, and both teams begin to talk trash. Enzo, at times Enzo is very entertaining on the mic. He can be very good if he has a direction with his promo. But if it just evolves into schoolyard bully talk, or if it's just annoying, then I would just say that Enzo is useless at this point, because Enzo is not a very good wrestler. He's a good punching bag. He can be good on the mic at times, and that's about it. And he's pretty much there for Cass to get the tag. But the segment, anyway, ends with Sheamus saying that Enzo is annoying, which I find ironic, considering that before Sheamus had this team with Cesaro, he was quite annoying, but hey, he was actually meaning to be annoying as a heel. That's the difference. I feel like Enzo sometimes treads the line between heel and face a bit too closely when he should be a super baby face, but hey, that's just what the main roster has done to Enzo and Cass. A bunch of people have turned on them. I haven't really turned on them per se, but they're both I'll be kind of generous and say they're both lackluster in the ring. I feel like Cass is, if he weren't apparently 7 feet tall, if he were like a foot shorter, he'd be fat, he'd be out of shape, he's slow for his size, and he's just sloppy. Enzo can't wrestle at all. His chain wrestling's horrible, and all he does is just get beat up. And his finisher is pretty much, I'm going to get launched in the air by my tag team partner, and that's it. So if these guys ever break up, I don't see either one of them doing well. but I honestly think Cass would do better. Uh, so at this point, Enzo and Cass, they need to win the titles at Mania over the club. But hey, we'll get more into this tag team angle later on in the night. Let's move on to the Goldberg promo. He came out, cut a super babyface promo. Half the crowd was eating it up. The other half was kind of unsure. He pandered to them, saying that the title belonged to them, and he said that he was humbled. The crowd was very, I don't want to say disgusted, but they're kind of put off by this, and so they started chanting CM Punk. When who else but CM Punk's former advocate Paul Heyman came out, he sold the match really well. Even though a bunch of people are not looking forward to this match, myself included, he did a very great job of building this match up, even if it's a match that I personally do not want to see ever. I do not ever want to see this match again. He put the title on a guy who's wrestled for maybe 208 seconds, I think it was, and he put the title on him. And they killed a lot of time during the Fastlane pay-per-view the other night in order for him to just have like a 22-second match and just have it be over. The thing is, you can do one of two things. You can either do one, not have those filler matches and just have the pay-per-view end early, or two, don't even have Goldberg win the title. If you know you're going to have to fill a lot of time, then why would you put the title on Goldberg? I understand that you want them to have another match that Brock wins, and you want it to be different than any other match they've had. So obviously the biggest option there is to put the Universal title on the line. I get it, but when it's all said and done, you're going to look at this title history and go, man, Goldberg held the title for a month? Ugh, gee whiz. I think Kevin Owens was better. Oh, wait, he held it for 188 days. They tried to legitimize him as champion with like 2 weeks to go till the pay-per-view, and then he lost in 22 seconds. I mean, a complete joke. These two championship reigns of both Kevin Owens and Goldberg are going to be jokes, and Lesnar is not going to be back till SummerSlam. He'll put over Roman Reigns, and there we go. And I'm not someone who's just going to aimlessly hate Roman Reigns, but you can tell that's where they're going, especially after last night. They could have done so much with the match between Strowman and Reigns. They could have had Undertaker come out and distract Reigns. They could have had some sort of shoddy finish where Reigns won, or a count out, or something like that. But no, they had to put Reigns over clean, and later on tonight we'll get into the pussification of Braun Strowman. That just boiled my blood toward the end, and it wasn't a bad episode of Raw. It was decently fine for a Raw episode, but man, that ending segment, we'll get more into it, but gee whiz, it was just horrible. It was flat out awful. But anyway, Heyman introduced Brock, big pop. Goldberg and Lesnar stared down each other. Heyman kept talking over and over, and Heyman said that Brock would conquer him, and then at the end of the day he would say that he is Brock Lesnar's bitch. And then Brock picked up Goldberg, and the 50-year-old man died right there in the ring as he received an F5 from Brock. So Goldberg finally takes a bump, and there we go. This segment was, I'll say it was good. It was good. I think the Goldberg promo did what it had to do. I did not like the promo, but hey, it established him as the babyface. It established Brock as the heel, and Heyman did a good job of putting the match over. I'm not looking forward to the match at all. I don't think I'd be looking forward to the match if the title were not on the line either. But hey, this is Vince's fantasy land, and if he wants a 50-year-old man and a near 40-year-old man to fight for one of his biggest titles in his company, then go ahead. Just put those old men over the younger guys like Kevin Owens, who's carried the brand for the entire brand split so far. So that's my thoughts on that. Man, I'm just not looking forward to it, but I was not looking forward to this either. The club versus Enzo and Cass in a tag title rematch. I knew it had to happen because you can't have a screwy finish and then just have the faces go off and act like nothing happened. So it's a very typical Enzo and Cass match. Cass started off, the club beat him up. He quickly created space, tagged Enzo, and then Sheamus and Cesaro came out, went to commercial. and they're at ringside for the rest of the match. So the club beats up Enzo for quite a while. He counters on Gallows with a DDT. He crawls to the corner, tags Cass, and Cass hits some follow slams and splashes on Carl Anderson, who was tagged in by Gallows. So on the outside, Gallows is there. Enzo hits a suicide dive on him, which he botches horribly, does not hit his target at all. And Gallows is not a small target. You know, if Enzo were doing this on, say, Carl Anderson, that'd be one thing. But he's doing it on Gallows. You know, come on. He pretty much hit his head on the barrier, and then he gets up like he just did it perfectly. You know, that's what I'm talking about with Enzo not being able to wrestle correctly. And I know that sometimes, you know, you're not gonna hit suicide dives perfectly. You're not gonna hit them completely fluently. But come on, it was just horrible, and that's pretty much the majority of what I hate about Enzo Amore. But anyway, Enzo hits the suicide dive. He does his little dance as he's backing up. He spills Cesaro's coffee, and Cesaro gets pissed off. He chases Enzo in the ring and causes a DQ as he hits, I believe, Anderson, and so the club wins by DQ. So hey, the champions won. I thought it was good. Usually, I'm not a fan of the schmoz finishes, but hey, you had to do it there. You know, you can't have your champions look weak by losing, and you can't have your faces, who are probably going to win at Mania, you can't have them look like chumps by losing. So I thought it was good. I thought it was a bit unconventional, but hey, it did its job. So Sheamus and Cesaro clear the ring, and they kind of get revenge on Enzo and Cass for what they did earlier backstage. So good segment. It was, you know, an okay match. It was very paint by numbers for an Enzo and Cass match. But you know, that's all. That's all I'll say about that, because you know there's not much more to say. If you're looking for a great tag team match from Enzo and Cass, you're gonna need another tag team, like say a Sheamus and Cesaro, or an American Alpha, or Revival, or DIY. You're gonna need another great tag team, and I feel like the club, as good as Carl Anderson is on his own, when he's in a tag team, he's just restricted. He's very restricted, and it's nothing against Gallows, but he's just not as good with Anderson, and I feel like as a tag team they could be better. Um, but the segment did what it had to do, and that was a recurring theme in this episode. Segments that did their job, and segments that told a story toward WrestleMania. For the lack of WrestleMania build that happened last night, as of recording this last night, they did a very good job of building things up. So then we move on to the Rick Rude Hall of Fame package. It had been speculated for quite a while Rick Rude was going in, but it was made official earlier today. Very good package. There were plenty of people who said good things about him in that package, and with that, he joins the Rock and Roll Express, Beth Phoenix, Teddy Long, Kurt Angle, and Diamond Dallas Page as an inductee into the 2017 WWE Hall of Fame. Well deserved, well past due, and so Rick Rude absolutely deserves to go in there. In my opinion, he's kind of like a, I don't know. He's a mix between the Miz, and Shawn Michaels, if I could say that. Shawn Michaels, because he's a bit of a playboy, and The Miz because he thinks he's all that. And Rick Rude was just that guy. He encapsulated everything about those two superstars. He would just take your woman, and they would love it. They would love it. And he commanded respect. He was a despicable heel, and well deserved for Rick Rude going into the WWE Hall of Fame. So we go backstage. Mick Foley is pissed at Sheamus and Cesaro, and the club and Enzo and Cass. They don't know what to do, so they go up to Foley, and all three teams are there. Foley says, "You know what? I'm gonna try to have a nice day, so I'll set up Club versus Enzo and Cass versus Sheamus and Cesaro for a triple threat tag match at Mania. And I feel like that's the best thing you could have done there. You can't have Club versus one of those teams again for WrestleMania. So those are easily the top three tag teams going into WrestleMania. I feel like you could have had like a New Day there, but hey, them wrestling, take it or leave it, or them hosting WrestleMania, take it or leave it. I think it's a fine decision. But Stephanie came out to emasculate Mick Foley yet again, and Stephanie said, "You want to have a good day? Then come to my office." So then we go to commercial. We come back, and Arya Daivari versus Akira Tozawa is that second cruiserweight match that happens. Tozawa is really, really over, and when he first joined the cruiserweight division, I was thinking, man, what a disgrace that Akira Tozawa, of all people, has to endure this horrible, awful division. But he's really over with the chants. Say what you will about the chants, say what you will about them being simplistic, but you know what? He got over with them on the indies, not only because of the chant, but because he's just a great high flyer, and he just has this fortitude about him that gets people to be on his side, and he is a natural babyface. They trade some chops for a little bit. Tozawa hits a suicide dive on the outside, comes back in, hits a snap suplex. Very short match, but there was a longer cruiserweight match earlier, and this set up a match on 205 Live, or at least a segment on 205 Live, as after the match, Akira Tozawa called out Brian Kendrick, and he said he wanted a match on 205 Live. Kendrick said that he'll let him know on 205 Live, so we will await his response. I don't know what they're doing on 205 Live. I might try to watch that. I'm just not sure. But it was a good segment. It accomplished what it had to do. I've said that about 5 times in this review, and I really feel like this Raw, it accomplished a whole lot for what they did not do at Fastlane. I'm really impressed by how much they did. We move on to the New Day promo with their ice cream cart. They said they call it the Popsicle, play on words with popsicle. And for some reason, Primo and Epico were in the ring. New Day said they'd beat the Shining Stars, and they did just that. I wrote down in my notes, New Day versus Shining Stars, and I was meaning to write down some notes. And really, there was not much there. I think Epico hit a couple moves, but that was about it. New Day won easily. Nothing big there. And that'll just. I'm upset about the rest of this tag division. You've got New Day, who are the longest reigning tag champs, and you're not even gonna have them wrestle, and you're just gonna let them make a big joke out of the Shining Stars. And I don't like their gimmick. But I think Primo and Epico are pretty good wrestlers. They really are, and they deserve better. They deserve a better gimmick, and they deserve more time to wrestle, because I feel like that's where their bread and butter is, and that's where the money can be made from them. So I just feel like New Day's being mistreated and misused, as are the Shining Stars. We move on to the Women's History Month package with Trish and Lita, and my notes: people say nice things, and you know what? There's not much more you can say. Trish and Lita were instrumental in the current crop of women getting into wrestling, and without them, we wouldn't have the amount of stars we have now. I like the segment. Some people might say it was a bit pandering, but you know what? In the spirit of Women's History Month, these two really did make a lot of history in this company. I feel like they should be highly regarded as two of the most influential wrestlers of their time. So we move on from two women to another. Bayley was called out to the ring by Mick Foley, and man, I would be happy if Bayley did not have a microphone ever again. She is a horrible promo, and you want to know why? Her promos, 99% she just recaps stuff, and 1% it's her just like awkwardly yelling. She awkwardly yells, and she's like, well, here's what happened at this point, and then this point, and then this point. I don't like it at all. She's a horrible promo, and the crowd doesn't like it. She's a fine wrestler, and she has a fine gimmick. I mean, the gimmick has a shelf life, but she gets over just fine with it. But a terrible, terrible promo Uh, she said that she felt bad about how the match ended last night, uh, saying that it should not have ended like that, and she didn't want Dana Brooke to come out because then that caused Sasha to come out, and then Foley was asking her who her opponent would be for WrestleMania. Cue Sasha Banks, she came out, and even more backstory about how uh, they're best friends and how they could tear the house down at WrestleMania, and I just don't like it. Sasha's not good as a face, but you know what? This Raw team booked themselves in a corner. Sasha is the only other face in that women's division. You have no other faces there, so you'll have to keep Sasha face as long as possible. Maybe she'll turn at WrestleMania, maybe a couple weeks prior to WrestleMania. We'll have to see. But it's just a bad promo and an even more confusing segment uh, as Sasha challenged Bayley. Foley wanted to get the crowd's opinion on this. The crowd was digging it. Charlotte came out with Dana Brooke. She said that Sasha was only using Bayley to get a title shot and said that she was robbed. And Stephanie arrived. And as soon as Stephanie arrived, CM Punk chants rang out from Allstate Arena. She said everyone in Chicago was like him, a loser, and she shut those down quickly. And as a heel, if there's one thing she can do well, it's shut down the CM Punk chants. But she quickly emasculated everybody. She makes Bayley versus Charlotte at Mania, saying that Sasha has not deserved or earned a match. Mick said that this was not fair and that all three women should be in the match. The crowd agreed. And here are my notes. I kind of got a little lost here. Let's see if I can find it. It was a bit of a confusing segment. Mick ended up making Sasha versus Charlotte a number one contender match, but then Steph said that Charlotte will already be in the Mania match, and it'll be up to Sasha to be in the Mania title match. So she puts Sasha against Bayley, and if Sasha wins, she'll be in the triple threat. Well, she'll be in the title. She'll be in the title match. That'll be a triple threat. I was a bit confused by it, and this segment was really clunky. Terrible promos. Steph did a horrible job. Mick did a horrible job. So then we got Bayley versus Sasha. It was boring. There were a bunch of rest holds. Charlotte was on commentary with the three other goofs, Byron and Corey. I like their dynamic at times. I feel like they argue a bit too much, and here they really did argue the entire time. It took away a lot from the match, and it just sucked all the energy out of the crowd and sucked all the energy out of the match. Both women in the ring were really sloppy, and man, I really don't recall them being this sloppy in NXT. And maybe it's just like rose-colored glasses from NXT, but man, it was horrible. We went to commercial. They had some good counter wrestling. As Charlotte left the commentary table, Charlotte got up on the ring. As Sasha had Bayley in the bank statement, Sasha tried to break up the bank statement. Charlotte tried to break up the bank statement. Sasha kicked her off the apron, cinched it in even more on Bayley, and she tapped out. And for right now, it is a triple threat. I'm not a fan of this at all. I feel like WrestleMania nowadays is just, it's kind of like Oprah with cars. Here, you get a match at WrestleMania, and you get a match, and you get a match, you all get a match. And the rumors are that Nia Jax will be added into that match, and Nia Jax is absolutely horrible. She is one of the worst women on this roster, and you want to bring down a match big time, that's how you do it. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of whenever Miz was the IC champion, and he had to fight Cesaro, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn, and you could tell the odd man out was the Miz because the other three men were really good in the ring. Say what you will about the other three women, Charlotte, Sasha, and Bayley, but at least they're a lot better than Nia. And I feel like Nia would just bring down that match a lot. I know she's in there to just be a big enforcer, but she's just awful. I don't want to see a four-way there. I really don't. It just reinforces the notion that everyone gets a WrestleMania moment, and it cheapens it. It really does. So we move on from that to the robot, Dasha. Yeah, freaking Dasha. I think Dasha Fuentes, whatever. Where do they find these women? Do they just go to a strip club and look for them? And oh hey, Sugar Tits, you can be on Raw. You can interview Roman Reigns, and that's exactly what she did. She was asking him a question about Braun Strowman, and Roman said that Braun can find him in the ring at the end of the night. So there you go. There's a little preview of how the show will end with Roman Reigns. No surprise there. So from there, we move on. Rollins had a package of his rehab, and he promised in the package to be at WrestleMania, and so that segued into a satellite interview with Triple H and Michael Cole. Oh boy, I want to go off on this, but I'll refrain. Uh, During this satellite interview, Triple H said that Rollins should pay attention to the world-class doctors at WWE, and that uh, you know, they put everything they do into making sure the superstars are healthy, and they spare no expense. Now, this was obviously a shot at CM Punk, considering they're in Chicago and they're talking about the medical professionals, and considering that CM Punk is in a big legal battle with them. That's exactly what I picked up from that, and that was just slimy. That was just really pathetic from Triple H. I'm not going to get into it all that much, but CM Punk almost died because of one of your world-class medical professionals. So that's just a terrible thing to say right there. I did not like this segment. Triple H has been doing a really good job as of late since Rollins went out, but that struck a chord with me a lot. So then we get Samoa Joe versus Chris Jericho. We go to commercial as I believe it was Jericho made his entrance, and when we went back to Raw, we got a return video for Emma saying that you waited 17 weeks for her transformation to Emelina. So she said that she will return soon, and she'll be Emma this time. So she's going to return as Emma. God, it's going to take another 3 months, so it's going to be great. At least they're going to be getting Emma back, but they need her to be a heel, and they only have two faces on Raw as is. So they're going to have to, maybe draft Asuka or some other face to the Raw women's division, or bring someone back like a Kelly Kelly or someone they were in talks with. Any other face would be fine. But Emma is coming back. I'm kind of excited for that, but considering that we had to wait 17 weeks, it takes away a lot from the return. So, Samoa Joe and Chris Jericho. Joe ran wild early. Y2J made a quick comeback. Wrestled back and forth for a while. Joe cinched in his rear naked choke, the coquina clutch, on the outside. He left Jericho there. He got back in the ring at a count of 8. Jericho could not come to in time, and Joe won by countout. And I have a bone to pick with this as well, because you've really booked yourself in a corner. You had Jericho leave TV for like 2 or 3 weeks, and you hardly had him defend the U.S. title. For all the crap that Roman Reigns got, at least Roman Reigns every now and then defended his title. Jericho has not. And I love Chris Jericho, I really do. But you made him into a giant joke. He did not defend the U.S. title at Royal Rumble. He only defended it maybe once, or maybe one time against Sami Zayn, if I'm remembering correctly. But you made him into a big joke. And so having him go up against Samoa Joe, you have to have Samoa Joe win there, but you're ruining the credibility of the U.S. title. Sure, you're going to have Owens win it at Mania, and I'm fine with that, but you have to make Jericho's reign mean something. You knew he was just going to be a transitional champion, but good grief, for as long as he's had the title, he needs to make it mean something. This was the last championship that he had to win in this company, and it's just a big joke at this point. and so I did not like how they booked it. Um, I did not like the match in general. It was just okay. But anyway, after the match, Joe comes outside. He puts Jericho back in, starts to attack him again. Jericho hits a code breaker and leaves the ring. So at least he didn't lose all of his credibility. But man, it hit a sour note with me. Uh, so from there, we get a Braun Strowman promo, and this was at the end of the show. Braun Strowman promo, he's a really good promo. You know, there are a bunch of guys out there who are just robots on the mic. They're just big, bumbling beef heads, and they can't really do much. But with Braun Strowman, it really works out really well. And, you know, Braun Strowman he's an okay wrestler for his size. I don't think he's just so great as everyone says he is. He's definitely improved, but, you know, that's a myth that I wish would go away. You know, Braun's okay, but you know, as a promo, he's always been a great promo. He's always been that guy who can just deliver a big, rough, mean promo. And he said that Roman Reigns got lucky. He told him to come out here. Said that Chicago did not like him. He got a big cheer, and he said Chicago did not like him, and neither does he. So at this point, I stopped taking notes because what happened next shocked me. Uh, so at first, Roman Reigns' music hits, and then all of a sudden, big gong happens, and the Undertaker comes out. People lose their crap. He comes out, comes to the ring. They stare down, and then in the biggest pussification moment of Braun Strowman's career, he slowly exits the ring and leaves not even up the ramp, but through the crowd, as he does not even want to face the Undertaker. What a big pussy move from Braun Strowman. You know, Undertaker had every intention in the world, in kayfabe, had every intention in the world of coming out there and challenging Braun Strowman, and Braun Strowman doesn't want to build up his credibility and face the Undertaker. It baffles me. No one wants to see Roman Reigns versus the Undertaker. But anyway, Braun Strowman leaves, and Roman comes out. People boo him. He comes out and says, uh, I came out here for Braun Strowman and not you. Uh, so, with all due respect, this is my yard now. And so he's not going to turn heel. He said, with all due respect. You know, you've always got to look for the little buzzwords about how someone either is or isn't going to turn heel. And Roman Reigns isn't going to turn heel. He's going to beat The Undertaker, and it's going to be the end of his career. They're going to ruin this man's career. You know, he's a good enough wrestler. You know, his ring psychology is lacking. He is the drizzling shits on the mic. But he has the tools there to be successful. But no one books him well enough for him to get over as a face or as a heel. It's baffling to me. No one wants to see this, and if anyone does, they have serious mental problems. I feel like Roman easily could put on a better match with The Undertaker than Braun Strowman, but the crowd reacted big time in a positive way to Braun Strowman and The Undertaker. You can spout out all the crap you want about how Roman Reigns is this polarizing figure, but he's only polarizing because of the way he's booked. He's not polarizing because of the way he is as a character. He has not grown as a character at all. At all, and I could go on for hours and hours about how Roman Reigns is not ready to be in this spotlight, but he's already won 3 championships. He's a 3-time world champion, and Braun Strowman needs that rub on The Undertaker. He needs to face The Undertaker. He needed to beat The Undertaker. Now, last year, this is how much Braun Strowman has improved, at least in my eyes. Last year, when it was rumored that Strowman would face The Undertaker, everyone hated it. Everyone absolutely hated it because Braun Strowman never got a chance to show what he had. And now, since this brand split, he's one of the biggest beneficiaries of it, and then all of a sudden you just made him out to be a big pussy. And that's all he'll ever be. You know, he will always be the guy who had a chance to make a statement against The Undertaker, and he ran away with his tail between his legs. And I know it's a heel type thing for a heel to be cowardly, but Braun Strowman to be cowardly like that, I don't buy it for a moment. And it was a horrible way to end Raw. Undertaker and Reigns, they stare down. Undertaker's staring at the WrestleMania signs. We know it's coming. Reigns gets choke slammed and they end the show, but I'm not happy with it. I'm really not. we all know what's going to happen. Reigns is going to beat The Undertaker, and for the third year in a row, it's going to be the coronation of Roman Reigns. It's pretty much Vince saying, oh, you guys don't want him to be in a title chase, so here, we'll feed him to The Undertaker. Or we'll have The Undertaker get fed to him. And it's all going to lead to Roman Reigns winning the Universal title, and everyone's going to hate it. And at this point, I don't even want to watch Raw anymore. I really don't, because I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen, and it's going to be horrible. With that, that's the end of the show. I thought it was decent for what it was, and it could have been a lot worse. Highlights of the show, Austin Aries and Neville, that should be wonderful. That was an absolutely great segment there. Braun's promo was pretty good before he pussed out. The Emma return video, I'm kind of excited for Emma. Triple H's satellite interview before he said the stuff about the doctors, because it was an obvious shot at CM Punk. And, there were some down moments, but I went over those as well. All in all, it was a decent episode of Raw. I wish I could be a bit more critical, because I really do want to take some time to tear into this. Unlike my former partner, Jacob, was. If you haven't been paying attention, every pay-per-view we did predictions to see who would win the Wrestling Today Championship, and I've been the reigning champion for the last few months, and Jacob has been unable to recapture the title. So the stipulation going into Fastlane was that if he did not win the title, he'd be banned from Wrestling Today, and now he's not here anymore. So I will be doing Raw and SmackDown reviews. I might be doing other ones like Impact or Lucha Underground or something else. So it really just depends on what is in demand. So you all need to hit that subscribe button down below. Also follow me on Twitter at today_wrestling, and we will see you tomorrow for SmackDown Live. Peace out.